Alright, been a while since we've done one of these, but we have a new team battle. And if I sound different, it's mostly because I have a new microphone. The original microphone I was using died. The microphone part of it did, the headphones part of it did not, which is interesting. But as a result of this, I got a new microphone. Part of the reason that we were on a bit of a team battle hiatus, or part of the reason why I wasn't actively looking for team battles, was because I was trying to get a new microphone so that I could have the best quality of sound when recording. One thing about this microphone, though, is that it doesn't have the same mute feature that the last one did, or at least I haven't found a working way to do that yet, which kind of bothers me, but oh well. As for this in particular match, we have Neil Buster taking on Clap. This is a 3v3 round out team battle. Double Mulligan, Clan Diversity. The Japanese ban list, which as of now is the same as the US ban list with one tiny difference. The ban list basically is the similarities of the ban list are you can't have Barco or Conroe as a starting vanguard. You can't have more than two Odysseus. You can't have Sword Me in the deck if you run any grade 3s that aren't Jewel Knight. And the only real difference between the two is in a Japanese ban list, you can't have more than two Cat Butlers in a deck. The US doesn't do that. Japanese ban list does. No one. That's the only real difference, at least as of tomorrow, February 1st. But Clap is using Nubatama. And Clap is trying to bind a card. Why why would you put it there? If you're binding it face down, then you should put it in the bind zone, Neo. Just future reference. He won passes so he can get his card back later. Lets the rear guard hit because it's not in danger of doing that. If he goes into Legion, then it is a danger, but that's not the case, so. Grade 2, we ride into Koken. Spirit Brawler Koken, which means I know what this deck is that Neo is using right now. And it's just a matter of seeing if Clap can deal with it, because this deck, for all intents and purposes, from what I'm seeing, it should be Vermilion. If it is in fact Vermilion. Also, Neo missed a very big opportunity. He could have counterblasted to draw, but he wanted to kill that starter unit. I feel like he missed an opportunity to get more hand by going for that unit. When it comes to a situation like what Neo had at grade 2, you kind of have to decide what's more important to you between do you want to counterblast to get hand or do you want to counterblast to remove field? And, for something like that, you really want to attack Vanguard first. Because if you attack rear guard first and then you attack Vanguard without doing a counterblast, you can force the opponent to just not do any. The opponent can force you to just be locked out of both, and that's kind of something you don't want. Neo Buster goes for the rear guard, gets a heal trigger. Very helpful for him now since he got critical last turn. And another heal trigger. And that heal goes off, by the way. He should be healing a damn. There you go. So yeah, thanks to that, now Neobuster only has 1 damage to Clap's 3. And Clap it has to G-assist in order to get the grade 3. And he doesn't even get it. This is bad for Neobuster as well, because since he's using Dragonic Kaiser Crimson, he wants to Legion, and he can't. He can't Legion, he can't Stride, he basically can't bring out the power of his deck at all. But at the same time, his opponent has to deal with the fact that Neo's at 11k on both his Vanguard and his rear. And Neo really has nothing to be afraid of from these sides. I would have actually went for the rear. Limit his number of attacks a little more. But it looks like he did it to himself. And at this point, Clap is very, very cautious about allowing Neobuster to inflict damage, because he doesn't want another grade 3 going into the damage zone like this one did. Which makes perfect sense. So now G-assist is successful, which means you have to remove 2 cards. He decides on both triggers. And now we remove 2 G units, chooses the on-hit, discard 1. He also has the ability to Stride, so he'll be able to get back his hand. He also could have performed Legion, but as his hand is now, he wouldn't have been able to get a lot of benefit from it because he can't do Legion skill. He would have only been doing it to have Legion for later, I suppose. He uses the Ashura Stealth Dragon. Counterblast to bind a unit. And then the opponent binds one from hand as well, their choice. And at the end of the turn, they're going to go into the drop zone no matter what, because the Vanguard is Ashura Stealth Dragon, which also means that we're not going to see a Soul Blast to send them. Like, no matter what happens, just because there would be no point. I might have let that hit, but that's also assuming that they go to drop zone, Neo. Yeah. But yeah, I would have let that hit, assuming that he's gonna Legion next turn and not Stride. He decides to Stride. So if he's gonna Stride, it's probably better to keep that like that. Clap did keep a perfect shield, which will help against Zora's attack. And that's what he decides to use it on. And there's the blood. That's interesting. So Counterblast, draw, and I would bind one of the mates. I would absolutely bind a mate here. Yeah. Part of the reason why Clap guarded Zoras the way he did was because if Zoras had hit, he would have been able to retire the starter, and he also would have been able to bind both mates, making Legion impossible right now. Well, not impossible, but a lot less practical. Neo has no reason to allow that to hit. Now, something that Clap has done is he's essentially locked Neo out of doing Vermilion things simply because there's not a lot of reason to do them now. He could punish for that decision by striding into Conquest, and it looks like that's what's happening. Yes. So this is something that Narukami can do, is that Vermilion has the ability to attack the entire front row and remove it from the field. And if you go with the normal decision that comes with that of not calling front row because they get stuff from retiring the front row, then the alternative is they can go into Conquest Dragon. And Conquest Dragon just decides we're going to give the entire front row 10,000 power because you have no front row. Clap was able to guard, but the hand difference is immense right now. Not to mention that because Neobuster hasn't taken a lot of damage, there isn't even really a way to take advantage of the Nubatama's ability to shrink the hand size, because Nubatama could absolutely normalize the hand size right now with one stride. Problem is, even if they do that, Neobuster is in a position where he could take literally 3 attacks if there are no critical triggers and be fine. So now we have Clap using Legion. Yeah, and Clap realized that he didn't have a mate in the deck. Because he did ride one. One got bound. There was one in drop. And there was probably one in hand. If he runs 4. He might just run 3. And if we were a different kind of team, we could have said he Legion missed. But we're not that kind of team. So this Jura Stealth Dragon is a new card. Soul Blast 1, choose a card from your hand and discard it. When this unit is placed on rear guard, if you have 2 or more cards with Shura Stealth Dragon in its original name in your Vanguard circle, so since he's in Legion that happened, you can do that. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 card with Shura Stealth Dragon in its name, reveal it to your opponent, add to your hand, and shuffle your deck. Your opponent chooses a card from his or her bind zone and puts it into the drop zone. If he or she puts a card into the drop zone this way, this unit gets plus 2k. So yeah, he called this unit first to bind a unit, and then using this skill, he was able to put it to the drop zone, so it would be 11k. And then also, it also allowed him to get the grade 3 Shura Stealth Dragon to the hand, which fueled the Legion skill because it's a persona flip skill. Neo has every ability to take that, but if he does, he'll lose his bound units. And he doesn't want to lose his bound units because Crown Holder Dragon is a strong unit for the bind. And, he wants everything else. How many drive checks was that? Okay. Okay, Neo caught it. Neo caught it. It's thank you, Neo, for catching that. Don't know why he guarded that though. Since it only had 2 critical, it would have put him at limit break. Then again, he actually doesn't need limit break now because he has the option of striding into Dragonic Kaiser Warning, which is what he's doing. I actually would have went with the first idea. Okay, he's got one in drop. So now we have Dragonic Kaiser Warning. And what this unit does is counterblast 1, flip a copy of itself. It gains the ability to attack the front row, and for each hit, it can choose 2 units and give them plus 5k. Crown Holder, when the Vanguard is Kaiser, for every unit that hits, it gives the ability to give itself and one other unit 2k. And of course, Koken gains 3k when it's the only unit when the opponent has no front row. So it was a really good setup, really good battle. In the end, Neo decided to keep his damage low, and it actually was a big benefit because if you let yourself get high damage against Nubatama, they can do that last damage very easily because they'll get rid of hand. Good games. Moving on to the next one.